Thanks. So Vince, thanks for walking out here with me.
My pleasure.
So everyone, I'm Gokul Salai. I'm the CEO of Novatio Solutions. We've been a UiPath partner for quite some time right now. I'm going to be up here with Vincent Cioto. He's a Senior Director of Automation and AI for NTT Data. So our story today is a little bit different. You know, everyone talks here about how RPA was something new for them and they adopted it and had great results. So for me personally, when I got into this industry, I had no clue what RPA was. My background's in medicine, and as a doctor, all I understood were genes and DNA and things about the body. So I said, how can I use this knowledge I have and transfer it over to technology? And that was kind of our motivation towards looking at automation from a cellular approach. How do you create your actual DNA? And so kind of the background of this is, create your core processes. Create the DNA, make sure you have your genes in place, and then, who's better at automating than your body? So why don't we follow that model, create a nucleus and replicate all the important functions across your organization. And that's the approach we took at NTT Data, and I'll kind of hand it over to Vince to speak a little bit about how he utilized that to grow the automation program there.
Thank you, Gokul. So within NTT Data, I'm responsible for our automation specifically within the end user space. So that's our service desk, that's desktop managed services, and that's also some activity in our NOCs. The biggest challenge we have is we have a lot of complexity in our environment, a lot of different contracts, different customers, they're all at different stages in their agreements with us. Some of them are single, tower outsourced. Some of them are total outsourcing. So there's a lot of complexity involved, and it's multinational. So we're spread across various continents, so not just in the U.S. And there's a need for us to be able to do a couple things. We need to be able to deploy quickly. So when we identify something, we're able to quickly identify it and quickly deploy. But also, we need to be able to know when we're getting into new engagements, how do we identify at the time of solution what it is that we should be automating within the function that it is that we're going to be taking on within a managed service. So the framework that Novatio helped us with is the fast frame technology, or the program, which is really multifaceted. So one of the first things that we do is we're able to take the advantage of the core robotic services that they've got. Those core robotic services are really a set of reusable components or bots that we tie back to the functional responsibility that we have within IDLE, for example. So if I look at Service Desk has a responsibility to document incidents accurately so we can underpin problem, change, release, config, financial management, all that stuff. That we need to be able to have a customer service component to what we do, so we're always trying to see how quickly and swiftly we can respond in the right fashion. We need to be able to make sure that we've got proper reports that are running to make sure that we have the proper efficiency and effectiveness at the agent level. So we've got these core robotic services that we're basically able to leverage. We know out the gate on new engagements what we've got, but they also allow us to take sort of a multi-pronged approach to things. So we quickly, efficiently, and effectively are able to deploy these CRS bots in our environment, depending on the functions, right? And from that, we're able to then hit the ground running while we focus on other activity that's important. So some of that activity is mandatory, like we need to do that ticket analysis and the deep dive stuff and all that, but that takes time. And so we're able to go through these core, the CRS bots, and actually start, knocking some of these items out, add value, have great, our clients believe in what we're doing, so that helps us in the grand scheme of things. And then we're able to go through and systematically try to identify what's specific to that client or that service that we're offering that we're able to deploy. While that's happening, there's also an element of the fast frame, the framework that is really lean-based and focuses on driving activity at, if I look at Service Desk, at the agent level. So our agents, the ones that are interacting with the end users, right? They're the ones that are able to determine whether or not they have something or a situation that needs automation or can be enhanced through automation. So it's great to help identify new opportunity. More importantly, as we started to deploy this across all our different service desks globally, what became important is also trying to understand, okay, the things that we've deployed, are they still fit for purpose and use? So again, we're able to leverage fast frame and through the lean deployments to understand whether or not what we've deployed is actually still working for us so that we can tie it into our CSI process. So it's really an end-to-end view of things that allows for us to be able to hit the ground running, multi-pronged approach in that we're able to gain some benefits, right, and do things strategically to identify and deploy automation, and then circle back and continually evaluate to make sure things are improving from a CSI perspective. So we're able to deploy this across service desks globally. We've been able to deploy it in North America as well as Asia Pac and throughout Europe. We've seen great success. All of our service desks have some form of automation that they're leveraging, but more importantly, all of our service desks have fast frame as a framework that's driving the activity that they've got across the board.
Yeah, no, thank you, Vince. And I think some of the key points there are everyone talks about these reusable assets now.
Yeah.
And the key thing is creating your own identity, creating that DNA, what works for NTT data.
Right.
I think that's how you're able to succeed. So you mentioned earlier that NTT has several global entities, and oftentimes organizations like that have their own automation initiatives, right? So the key thing becomes how do you identify when to use your intrinsic tools and where do you plug in RPA or intelligent automation? And to take that a next step, once you've identified the processes and the tool, how do you move this across your organization?
So really it's through the framework, right? So what we have is repeatable, not just from a technology perspective, but the framework is repeatable across the board. So it's about training, not only our champions, but training everyone that operates within these functions to understand what role they have to play, how the technology works, not necessarily to be developers, but need to understand what benefits does cognitive technology bring to the table? Where does RPA really fit in? A lot of times the people come to the table thinking RPA is the silver bullet. You do this, I'm supposed to, it can parse through a bunch of unstructured text and all that and figure out exactly what we need to do. And it's about educating them to get them to understand that RPA is the workhorse that gets things done. We have a bunch of cognitive technology that we tie into our IVR. We have biometrics in IVR that help us identify who the callers are. Right? And then we leverage cognitive tech to understand and do some speech-to-text conversion, right? And go through and understand what the actual request is. Then you pass the request on to the bot. The bot executes tasks very well. So it's just about making sure that they understand the technology, the capability, but through the framework and the lean programs that we have, we're able to govern what they do so that from a cultural perspective, they adopt the approach.
Perfect. So it's almost like you packaged up your identity, what NTT stood for, kind of modified a little bit and just replicated that across your organization. And the key thing there is you're able to do it with multiple technologies. We're not just focusing on intelligent automation in this case.
Correct.
So if you want to speak a little bit to, everyone, I know we got a little bit of time here. Everyone speaks about, governance and makes it a super complex issue, but I think in your situation, you knew what was going on. How did you package your existing models into our approach that we gave you?
So it was a little bit of a challenge, to be honest, just because as a multinational, there's a whole bunch of different nuances. So everybody does things differently at the account level. And in some locations, things just have to be done differently. So really, the packaging came in the form of training. We didn't try to boil the ocean, so we didn't deploy this across the board in one fell swoop. We did it by desk, we did it by location, we did it by region, right? And then we started deploying champions in different regions and really managing this through a COE. And so the COE governs the framework that includes training and so on and so forth, and make sure that there's a continual view from a business impact analysis perspective to drive it end to end.
Perfect. Thank you, Vince. And I appreciate you, taking the trip out here and standing next to me. Really appreciate your partnership. And if anyone has any questions, Vince and I are both available. So feel free to reach out. We're very excited to be here, and very excited to be working with UiPath. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.